From AI pilots to AI-ready contact center stacks, what's actually working? And I would like to take a minute to introduce our moderator. Our moderator, we have Suman Gandham, CEO, Vobiz.ai. Suman's ventures have delivered modern, programmable cores across fintech, AI voice, and beyond, enabling startups and enterprises to build the next big products. He founded Finan, one of India's earliest mobile-first customer neobanking platforms, where he built the core consumer banking stack from scratch, growing the platform before its acquisition by Open. At Open, he drove strategic expansion, ecosystem partnerships, and impactful products for small and medium businesses in India. Before Vobiz, he explored the intersection of Go IP and AI-driven financial services, seeing firsthand how voice AI deployment breaks when the infrastructure underneath it was designed for humans, not models. And in 2024, instead of shipping another AI voice product, he started building the foundation the entire market was missing. That became Vobiz. So let's put our hands together and welcome Mr. Suman with a round of applause. I would like to also welcome our panelists for this. Ankur Batla, Associate Director, Customer Success, Innovaccer. Let's put our hands together and welcome Mr. Batla. I would like to now call upon Ms. Dipika Swain, AVP Genpact, to join us. Let's put our hands together and welcome Ms. Dipika. And we also have Mr. Nikhil Gupta, co-founder of LimeChat, who will be joining us shortly. Until then, let's put our hands together for both our panelists and our moderator and give them a round of applause. Alright, so looks like Mr. Bajpai is also here, so let's welcome Mr. Bajpai too with a round of applause.
Hey, hello everyone. So, the topic today, the fireside here is about everybody's talking about the same thing, right? AI. And especially with AI voice also. So, how people are implementing, and right now, most of the contact center, all the enterprises are implementing AI voice, at least 80%. And the rest of the 20% are thinking to implement, and now it's applied the timing, so they will for sure implement. So, how the contact centers are implementing, how the companies and enterprises are looking at implementing AI voice in the companies. And we have here Dipika, Ankur, and Ankur. So,
hi, I am Ankur. I am the founder of LimeChat. We work with 500 plus enterprises in India and Asia to give them chat and voice AI solutions to help them revolutionize their customer experience. And we are one of the fastest growing companies in this space right now, because this is one of the biggest revolutions, I believe, which is also happening right now. And we basically build the core intelligence layer for an enterprise, where they can put on all of their business logic, connect all of their data in their APIs, which can then be available across any channel, be it WhatsApp, voice, WhatsApp calling, website, in-app, or any of those channels.
Hi, I'm Ankur Batla. I work as an Associate Director of Customer Success with Innovaccer, which is an healthcare B2B SaaS company. And I have around 18 plus years of experience into the field of healthcare and data and analytics.
Hi, I'm Dipika. I lead the build and commercialization of solutions for retail and supply chain management, mainly AI solutions. And yes, the contact center is one of the earliest transformations that has basically adopted one of the you can say earliest adopter of AI and massive transformation of the contact center.
yeah, right now we are always talking about startups, scale-ups and everything, but India is totally built on BPOs and contact centers.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Totally. And right now there is a change happening, and AI is, moving into every part of enterprises, and especially with contact centers, right? So, all the contact centers and enterprises, how they are looking into AI, and what are the, what triggers for the contact centers, and whether it can be PPOs, contact centers, or enterprises who are implementing, what is the trigger, and how it's working on it efficiently.
Yeah, so I think the biggest trigger point for anyone, from what I have seen, is not that they want to reduce their cost, even though that is their eventual goal. It is usually that they want to handle a lot more load, right? And they are not able to do that with their current volumes. Like if they have 1,000 people, right, and they have to handle 1 lakh plus calls. Then and if that spike comes in because of a launch or a festive season or something like that, then it's very hard to scale up and scale down people in your contact center, right, to handle that. It's very hard to get hire and train those people and get them at that level of quality. And that becomes the number one trigger for someone to actually start experimenting with an AI agent, whether it is on any channel, voice or chat, so that they can handle those things. Now once they see the efficiency at which that happens, then they start scaling it gradually for more and more use cases and more.
So I would like to add context from the healthcare perspective where it's going to be and how as our organization is utilizing these contact centers by creating a context layer on top of different disjoint data elements. For example, we are serving population health management in US. So let's say we are having data from EMR, we are having data from different data clinics, there are lab results and everything, right? So now with this, we are auto screening. So let's say someone is already diabetic, right? So because we have the lab results, we have that data shortlisted. Now within that, I want to make sure that or as a payer or an insurance or an hospital, they are working on towards the value-based care out there, where they want to make sure that patients should get their quality care gap closure as soon as possible. So for example, a diabetic patient should check their HbA1c every 6 months. So let's say a patient has called the hospital for other reasons. For example, they are called for a billing related stuff. So at that time itself, within that context here, they identify they have some care gap closure pending, so they can auto schedule their appointment for their next HbA1c test. Like similarly, it's going to close out several other things. So this is one of the basic examples. Now, if we talk about the chronic diseases, so there it has to basically the patient has to go towards therapies at certain frequencies, right? So every month they have to go for, let's say, cancer treatment frequencies and all, right? So it can auto-schedule and trigger an outbound as well, so that patient should not lose out any kind of context, and the value has to be given to the patient on a timely manner and a timely manner. So that is where this brings a different context and a human touch as well, which will eventually let the patient know that hospitals or the organization that they are dealing with is actually caring about them. So it gives an extra edge towards it with the help of that context there that you guys are with.
That's a good, quick observation.
Yeah. So I believe there is no one trigger that has initiated AI transformation in contact center. Mainly with the cost pressure. Say for example, the call volumes are rising. You have a lot of repeat calls coming in, and the rehiring cost, the training cost, agent cost, labor costs are high. So one is the cost pressure, some of it can be automated through AI, is something that is driven. Then the agent productivity, right, and the customer expectation as well. So customer expects 24/7 personalized touch. And also like some instant recommendation, instant, say promos and all should be personalized promos and also those kind of expectation coming in from the customers, and from agent side also, like agents have to do a lot of work after call, like after work, call works, then feeding in the CRMs and all. So there are a lot of manual work involved there. So in those aspects, can AI play a role? So it's basically convergence of three pressures, I would say. One is cost pressure, one is agent productivity pressure, and one is the customer expectation pressure. That has led to AI transformation.
Cost for all of the first one. Okay, so this question is for Nikhil and Dipika, right? We, in our country, right, it's good or bad, whenever a technology comes and the first thing they say like, the bandhu ko bitao banao, right? There's always this thing of build and buy, build or buy, right? So what is that, what is this thing, where all the enterprises are looking into, either build or buy, and what is the trends you're seeing?
So basically, build versus buy, right? So when you buy the platform, you have, say, limited customization capability there, and you don't own the IP. When you build, you have the IP to do your own, but again the implementation time is long. You have to have that in-house talent. So in terms of build and buy, specifically for contact center, people are preferring buy more and then integrate to their existing say CRM system or gas system and all. So that they retain that existing technology and on top of that add in the additional platform, because that fast time to implementation is something that is mostly priority now. Since this is mostly proven, right? It's something not new that has to be experimented. It's something that's proven, so most of the organizations that we are seeing are buying the technology.
And again, I hear good news, all good news about LimeChat and everything, how you're implementing. So when you talk to the customers, will this build versus buy thing comes out?
Yeah, build versus buy is definitely thing which people consider, but I'll actually talk about a more nuanced approach about what kind of things you want to build yourself and what to buy. So if I talk about Vobiz.ai itself, right, most of us are looking to build right now. So there are various layers to Vobiz.ai. First thing is the infra layer itself, where you just simply get numbers and you are calling people. Right? That itself is like a very hard problem to solve, managing that file infra. Actually, that is something which Vobiz also does very well. So there is no sense of like building something like this, which is like a solved problem, and this is also very hard, right? Now then there is a layer on top of this, which is speech to text and text to speech models and LLMs. Right now, this is also something which nobody would want to build from scratch unless there is like a data security something of an issue and you want to build a special LLM for yourself. But mostly like for this layer also, this is a very hard problem and there are out of the box solutions. So you end up buying this. Now on top of this, there is an intelligence. Right? Intelligence means where you actually put in your business logic and tell what to do. Now for very simple use cases, this is just like a simple problem. But as the use cases become more and more complex, right, you will have to connect more of your systems. You'll have to like put in the right logic of using data, using APIs, and you will eventually need a platform for this. So here there is a more nuanced approach. Like if you just need a prompt, then you can actually do it yourself. But if it becomes a complex use case, right, then it is better to use a platform and then build on top of that platform, because you will always be the best at your own business, right? But you don't want to get into that complexities of hey, the data is coming wrong, right? Or the AI is not calling the API on time, or how do I audit this conversation in production? You need something which actually handles all of those things, and on top of that, you should definitely build yourself. So it should reach a place where, like a business stakeholder themselves can go and just type in whatever is there in their head, whatever expectations are there, because that expectation setting is also very hard with AI, and they are able to do that, and then the build actually becomes very quick. So I feel like this is the right way to actually think about this overall problem.
So I spent 8 years of my life in Europe, right? So when I moved to India and started building and everything, as an enterprise and everything, I see that 90% of our calls are outbound, right? And 10% are inbound. And when coming to voice AI right now, it's like I see like 95% calls are outbound, right? And I was thinking why? Because in India you don't need to call a service provider. For food you have Swiggy. For services you have other companies. So everything is happening. But when coming to US and Europe, people still call companies. So the inbound traffic for enterprises is very high in US and Europe. But when coming to India, it's totally outbound. Especially on the BFSI, is one of the biggest initiative of the calls happening where BFSI do the most of the calls, right? So do you see that there will be a change in the trend where inbound and outbound is more because there is more tool calling and integrations needed for inbound? For outbound, you just need a prompt and you just have to train the agent for outbound, so it's easy. So that's the reason there are more outbound calls. And how do you all see?
If we are talking about the trends for Vobiz.ai, because we are in the initial stages, people are doing a lot of simplistic use cases, like collection calls or reminders. But as you go deeper and deeper, even in that use case, right, it turns out to be more and more complex than a prompt. So what happens when you start, you will just say that, hey, 5 days are left for loan to be paid, so just like follow this script, and if they have these objections, then respond like this. Now what happens when you put this system live, right? People start asking a lot of questions which are not part of your script, and then you have to keep on adding those things to the prompt. And after some time, what happens? Your prompt crosses 1,000 lines, and at that time, you need a much more larger language model to even handle that prompt. The model starts hallucinating. The time it takes for the response starts going high, and at that time you need that complexity. So I think, in fact, in all of the use cases, you would need that complexity. But in inbound, it is not even possible to do a simpler use case. In outbound, it is possible to do that. So we have started seeing that adoption. But wherever the adoption has happened, right, it is now going into that territory where even for that call of reminders, collections, or sending a loan, you have to start building in that complexity so that it reaches that outcome, right? For example, the aim is not that you just did one collection call and your job is done. The idea is you need to get a final collection. To do that, it might take 4 or 5 calls, or 2 calls, or 8 calls in different people. But that is where the AI agent needs to come in and decide when do I call that person, is the next call needed, how do I share context, right? With the second or third call, it will have the context of the first call, and so on. And that is where the complexity will start coming in, when things will start moving more and more towards the end outcome.
Ankur, especially with healthcare, you are much more, regulated and compliant than financial industry, right? How are you doing?
So specifically in healthcare industry, we want more outbound than inbound, as an industry altogether, right? Because if we are getting inbound, those are more generic related, either an appointment booking or an emergency or an medical or financial related issues, right? And outbound, as he mentioned, that outbound is more controlled, where we are targeting for a specific thing, a specific subset of applications, right? The example that I provided earlier, that is one of it, right? So it's going to be more controlled and plus the context related, and it's not just one digital channel which is likewise. As I said, in contact center there are multiple channels, and that is one of the reasons that you asked that the outbound is competitive because we are targeting, or not even healthcare, but multiple industries are targeting with multiple channels altogether, like by sending SMS reminders, by sending emails, by sending different data types, by with chatting, and that's where the whole context journey also comes into the picture, where we can either minimize, because see, voice will have a major impact, AI voice or anything, because calling is much more and